Welcome in. We are live here on Sunday morning, week 2. My name's Trevor Steinbach. I'm just going to bring you a couple tidbits here before we get started with week 12. Each week, I try to bring you the Sunday morning stinker tinker, give you a little bit of context. Who do I think is going to be the best player in that position? What games am I want to target? Maybe these are guys that are on my bench, but I want to get them in my starting lineup this week because of the high over-unders. Or maybe they're guys on my starting lineup that I don't want on my bench, or I want to put on my bench because I don't like that game. I'm going to go through a bunch of that here today. Plus, today we're sprinkling in a little daily fantasy as we missed Big Red Stick Pack on Friday's episode, as I missed Friday's episode. So I want to bring you a little daily action here this morning. We'll start at quarterback, our top quarterback of the week. We're going Patrick Mahomes, baby. Go Chiefs. I just think he's going to smash the Raiders. You know, all the talk on Twitter, all the media talk about how the Las Vegas Raiders take a victory lap around Arrowhead Stadium before they headed to the airport when they defeated the Chiefs early this season. Coming off of a bye week, I'm looking for Patrick Mahomes, 4 touchdown passes. Maybe he rushes in for a score tonight. If you're playing daily fantasy tonight, he is a must in the MVP spot. Going to be very, very popular, but I think he's a must in that MVP spot for tonight's game in a cash game lineup. Another daily quarterback play that we're going to look at today in our main slate, Lamar Jackson, $8,400 against a really bad Tennessee defense. He's been using his legs a lot more over the past 3 games. In fact, over those games, he's averaging 13 carries, about 59 yards rushing, and about 2/3 of a touchdown. He's got 1 touchdown in 3 games, if that helps you out. So I guess that's 1/3 of a touchdown. Anyways, that's nearly 10 points per week just on his rushing alone. It's really starting to pick up over the past couple of games. I don't think you need to stack Lamar in a cash game today. If you're playing daily fantasy, if you're playing in a tournament game, you could stack him with Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown potentially. Or one of the other, but again, in a cash game, you don't need to stack him. Lamar Jackson should be a good cash game quarterback. Top running back of the week. It's hard to go against Dalvin Cook, even against a Chicago defense last week. He still ends up as a top 15 running back. This Dallas defense is atrocious. Don't worry about them. He's going to get the rock a lot today. Look for Dalvin Cook to smash once again. Some daily fantasy running backs that I like today. I mean, it's hard to go against Dalvin, but I really like Derrick Henry, $8,200. He's $1,300 cheaper than Dalvin Cook. And against the Ravens defense that gave up 100 yards last week to Damien Harris. Derrick Henry, Damien Harris. I'd rather take Derrick Henry every day, right? Most of those yards from Harris last week came after Calais Campbell came out of the game. And Calais Campbell is not expected to play again today. The big run stopper in the middle of that defensive line is set to miss. Look for Derrick Henry to take advantage of that. And I think this game could be a sneaky high-scoring game here. Derrick Henry is really the only guy I like from Tennessee, but look for him in your cash game lineups today as well. Alvin Kamara, $9,700. Dalvin Cook, as I mentioned, $10,500 today. Salaries are just way too high for me. I like them. They just seem a little bit too high for both of those guys. It doesn't give you a lot of flexibility around the rest of your lineups. Mike Davis at $7,400. I continue to target that Detroit Lions defense. And with Davis much lower this week, but they have a backup quarterback playing, so look for them to just defense. Kalen Ballage at $5,800 against the New York Jets. 12.7, 15.4. That's the last 2 FanDuel fantasy points for Kalen Ballage. That's easily doubling his value at a very cheap $5,800 price against the Jets this week. You can play the narrative, right? It's against the old coach, Adam Gase. He's against his old team in the New York Jets. Whatever narrative you want to play, I think Kalen Ballage easily doubles his value this week and a much cheaper play at running back for you. Top wide receiver of the week for all of fantasy, I think going Julio Jones. No Marshawn Lattimore for the Saints today. Look for Julio to really take advantage of that. Coming off of a bye in a divisional matchup. And I really think the Falcons can win this game today. Now, I've said that 9 times this year, and I've only been right 3 times, right? They're 3-6. I don't understand how they continue to lose points. I continue to pick them in our NFL pick'ems each week. I picked them again today. Again, I like the Falcons, and I really think that Julio is going to dominate double-digit targets today. Again, no Marshawn Lattimore for the Saints. He's $8,100 on FanDuel. I really like him there as well. For other daily fantasy wide receivers today, Michael Thomas, $8,200. I'm slightly worried about the quarterback play here, but the Falcons' defense is terrible. And the first 2 games here were against top 10 defenses. So I think a lot of people might be off of Michael Thomas, whereas it hasn't really been a lot about him. It's just he's gotten 7 and 8 targets in both of his first games back from the injury. He just hasn't got it put it together quite yet. Obviously, I would much rather have Drew Brees throwing him the ball, but look for Taysom Hill and or Jameis Winston to pelt him with targets today as he finally has a defense he can destroy. Another daily, Deontay Johnson, $6,400. Time and time again, I just love Deontay Johnson. His price is still too low. It has gone up a little bit, but it's still too low against a really bad Jacksonville Jaguars defense and from Pittsburgh. A couple other names here, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, $7,300. Justin Jefferson, $6,700. They're all great plays for you this week in daily fantasy and really cash games. Obviously, anything you can play in cash, you can play in tournaments as well. Top tight ends, Travis Kelce. It's not even close today. There's nobody else out there. Darren Waller will be good, but Travis Kelce will be the best tight end on the week. Quick reminder, if you play on an ESPN league, Taysom Hill can be a tight end spot today. I have him in 4 of my 5 ESPN leagues, and he's starting in all 4 of them. Anytime you can get an extra quarterback in your lineup, you're going to take it. Taysom Hill is also tight end eligible on FanDuel. Therefore, he's really the only tight end you should be playing today. $4,500 is the lowest price you can have for a tight end on FanDuel. So we get to put a second starting quarterback in our daily lineups at just $4,500. Even if he gets benched at some point during the game, put him at your tight end spot. There's an easy chance he gets 10 points from a tight end and the Darren Waller on the main slate today. So would you rather take your chance on like a $1,000 Mark Andrews to get you 10 points or a $4,500 Taysom Hill? Give me the starting quarterback. It's so easy. I'm guessing he's probably – don't get cute. Put him in your tight end spot this week. Let's look at some games this week. Give me all of that. Falcons and Saints. I've talked about them already, but over under 49.5. It's divisional games late in the season can be tough on fantasy football. Defenses are still pretty bad. We thought the Saints would turn in a corner a couple weeks ago against Tampa Bay. That's not the case. I'm starting players all over on both sides of the ball today. Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, those guys for the Falcons, they're must starts. Don't be cute with them. You're playing them. Todd Gurley, he should be fine here, although I do think there are expectations for Todd Gurley this week. Saints' run defense is pretty good. And plus, I just think Matt Ryan will throw the ball all over the place. I'll talk more about Matt Ryan here in a minute. Again, if you can start him at tight end, you're absolutely starting him at tight end this week. I do think that if I play in a league that I can only start him at quarterback, I am going to avoid him there because of that idea. He could get benched. We understand that. Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, and season-long must starts. Jared Cook, Sanders, I wouldn't call them must starts, but they'd probably find a way in your lineup depending on the rest of your roster looks like. Jared Cook has not been too involved recently. I don't think Jameis Winston really likes his tight ends when he's quarterback. We didn't see it anyways last year in Tampa Bay. So if he comes in, you might not like that. So I'd be weary of those two guys, but definitely could be startable depending on what your roster looks like. Atlanta Falcons at the New Orleans Saints. Give me all of that. Or don't like that game of the week. Denver Broncos hosting the Miami Dolphins. It was kind of an easy pick for don't like that. On the Broncos side of the ball, it does look like Drew Lock and Noah Fant are both going to be playing. So it helps that offense. I'm not playing Drew Lock, especially in one quarterback leagues, but I do think it helps his pass catchers, Noah Fant, Jerry Jeudy. I think you end up having to fire up Noah Fant depending on what your roster looks like again. Just the tight end spot's so disgusting, so hit or miss. And Noah Fant's probably one of the more consistent tight ends out there when he's healthy, so you're probably going to fire him up. Jerry Jeudy's, we could play him, but I'm not really liking the running back matchup for the Broncos against the stingy Miami defense. And then on the Miami side of the ball, Salvon Ahmed, he's performed really well recently, but the defense, the Denver run defense is really their strength. I would view Salvon Ahmed as a really low-end RB2 this week. If I can avoid him, I will. But again, depending on what the bye week looks like for you, depending on what your other running backs, all the injuries out there, you might not have any other options. You can definitely feel comfortable with Dickey this week if possible. And Devontae Parker, he's probably going to find a way into your lineup. But again, my expectations. Really, my favorite play in this entire game this week is the Miami defense. If you got them, fire them up. Absolutely. They've been great the last couple of weeks. Miami at Denver, don't like that. You snooze, you lose player of the week. I told you I was going to talk about him here. Ryan only started in 48% of leagues currently in ESPN. In an average matchup against a Saints defense, I mentioned there's no Marshawn Lattimore this week. Passing the ball should be really the way they move the ball. Look for Matt Ryan to go over 300 yards this week. And due to matchups this week, like Tom Brady has the Rams tomorrow night. That's a tough matchup. Aaron Rodgers with the Colts today. That's a tough matchup for quarterbacks. I like Matt Ryan better than both of those guys. And really, I could see Matt Ryan end up as a top 6, top 7 quarterback on the week. I really like Matt Ryan. You could play him in daily as well if need be. But only starting in 48% of leagues today, guys. Get him into your lineups this week. Matt Ryan, you snooze, you lose. Our hit it and quit it of the week. Remember, this is a guy that we're playing. We're expecting to play 1 week and probably not going to play him any other weeks. That's Taysom Hill in the tight end spot. My guess is come next week he will not be tight end eligible. So many Twitter reports about why is he tight end, this and that. He'll be tight end eligible next week. Quit it next week. Doesn't this kind of feel like a cheat code? Like bad, and then the cops stop following you because you put that cheat code. That's how I feel like Taysom Hill in a tight end spot is this week. If you can do it, do it. You don't create the rules. You don't create the eligibilities for the players. You're simply putting a starting lineup together that is within the rules of the game. Even if it feels like a cheat code, you have to do it. Don't get cute. Go ahead and put him in your tight end spot. Taysom Hill at tight end. Hit it and quit it. You're thinking, Trevor, you're crazy. But look at this. If you're streaming quarterbacks each week, you're picking up a new quarterback off the waiver wire. Maybe you got 2 or 3 on your bench and you're trying to mix and match. Week 13 is the first round of the playoffs. So these are either starting your playoffs last couple weeks as you take that last playoff push. I can play against those defenses. I'm going to do that every time. If you don't have a sit it and forget it quarterback, you don't have Patrick Mahomes, you don't have Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson. Maybe you're running out Matt Stafford and Joe Burrow and these kind of streamers. Herbert in a good matchup. Tua, everyone. If you're streaming quarterbacks, Danny Dimes needs to be a part of that over the next 3 weeks. Great matchups again. Pick him up, put him at the end of your bench, and now you've got a nice matchup next week against the Cincinnati Bengals. Daniel Jones, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Fallback boy of the week, I'm really going the entire Bucs and Rams offenses tomorrow night. The Bucs just destroyed Carolina last week, and you're thinking, oh, they're back on track. They're so good. Carolina's defense is bad, and Tom Brady knows how to beat up a bad defense. The Los Angeles Rams defense is for real. We saw what they did to Russell Wilson last week, 2 or 3 interceptions. I mean, this Rams defense is very, very good. Both of these defenses are very, very good. Tomorrow night's over under 48. But I think if you get through today and you're like, oh, all I need is 20 from a Chris Godwin or just need 30 from Cooper Kupp, goes under. I think it's going to be a low scoring, really defensive battle. Mike Evans, Gronk, Chris Godwin, Robert Woods, you might have better options right now on your team. In fact, my sister texted me yesterday. She said, I'm thinking about starting Justin Jefferson over Chris Godwin. Am I crazy? Absolutely not. Justin Jefferson against the Cowboys, coming off of a 100-yard receiving game last week. You know he is continuing to break out. I love Justin Jefferson against the Cowboys. And versus a Chris Godwin against the Rams, I don't blame anybody for taking a Justin Jefferson and starting him over Chris Godwin this week. Cooper Kupp is really the one guy I'd be really confident in going in tomorrow night, and that's just purely based on volume. He is a target for the Rams, so based on that volume, I think I'd be putting him in my lineup still. The other guys, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to see what else I have and play somebody else. Either way, I'm lowering my expectations on this entire game on all of these fantasy players. Bold prediction of the week, I think Michael Pittman Jr. ends up as a top 10 running back this week. 7 and 8 targets over the last 2 weeks. Outside of the Minnesota game where Dalvin Cook really goes off for the 4 touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, 1 screen pass, he goes for 50 yards. Green Bay has given up at least 20 fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Michael Pittman is quickly becoming Philip Rivers' favorite target, and I think Michael Pittman ends up as that wide receiver top 10 wide receiver this week. And hear me out as I finish up here. First of all, go Chiefs. I mean, they're gonna hopefully kick the shit out of the Las Vegas Raiders tonight. They don't need a victory lap. You know, we'll have another parade. Maybe not a parade this year, you know, with COVID, but have another celebration of hopefully another Super Bowl while they're taking the victory laps around Arrowhead Stadium. You know, because they win once every 10 years there. Just wanted to see the rest of the stadium, apparently. Anyways, hear me out. It's week 11. You're 2 and 8, whatever. You're out of the playoffs. Set your lineups. Nothing is worse than people giving up on fantasy football 8, 9, 10 weeks into it. Your matchup still has a lot of fantasy implications. Guaranteed. The only way it doesn't is if there's 2 and 9 teams playing each other. If that's the case, whatever. But I guarantee your game has some fantasy implications. Set your line, because what happens is matchup for your opponent. And I was the recipient of this last week. My opponent scored 20 points, and it was ridiculous. I hated it. It was nasty because I'm out of the game. Sure, you set your line. If you're in a dynasty league and you have a bunch of bye weeks, I understand it. You know, you might not be able to play. Get them at least into your start. I don't care if it's second string, third string running back. I don't care if it's Kerryon Johnson on your bench. You need to set your lineups because it creates a fair, fun game for everyone involved. Don't be that guy. Don't be that gal. It's week 11. Good luck this week. And as always, don't over tinker.